So good to see you, so good to see so many new people, and so good to be back actually, gathering and having some great fellowship together. Welcome those of you who are online as well. So I remember saying to my mom, I was going to a sisterhood conference, and she said, "That sounds like a cult." She said, "What does sisterhood mean?" And she had thought it sounded really cultish, and she thought, so when we decided we would call this ministry Sisterhood, she thought it wasn't a good name. So I was actually thinking about it, and last night I looked up Google, what does sisterhood mean? And the Oxford Dictionary does have a meaning, and apparently it was a term that was used as far back as the 14th century. So there's nothing new with what we're doing. And some of the different things they said, it said it was an organization of women with a common interest for either a social or a charitable or business or political purposes. And then it spoke about, being sisters, a community of people sharing same experiences. And I thought, this is what the vision we have for this room is, okay? And today I just want to cast vision, but also share my heart of what I think this ministry could be like, and has been like, and what it could be like going forward. And there's many girls in the room today that are here for the very, very first time. And we just wanted to get all the girls together. I know in the past we've had a creche set up, but we thought, you know what, if you don't mind the little kids making some noise with their toys, we are fine with it. We will just set up some toys in the room because we want the girls and the mums especially to be here, because we don't want to ever them, if they're making a lot of noise, there is a room for them. But today we just wanted to all gather together. And so last week I was reading my Bible, and the Bible is so wonderful because it's so relevant. And last week I just happened to be reading, I'm going through Romans in my New Testament reading, and it was Romans 14. And the whole chapter jumped out at me because I was like, how do I start this? What am I going to say, Lord? I wasn't sure what I was going to say today. Because next week we're going to be starting looking at women of the Bible. And next week I'm going to be unpacking the first woman of the Bible, which is Eve. And very excited to look at her story. And every week we're going to unpack another woman. And so when I was thinking about that, I thought, well, how do I start it today? And I thought, well, I'm just going to start and share my heart for this ministry. And, Romans 14. Romans 14, it starts off, the whole thing in the chapter is Paul is writing this letter, and there's so many squabbles going around. It's funny because it's very similar to what we've been talking in the Limitless series. There's so many squabbles, they're fighting about this and that, and then Romans 14 comes along, and Paul writes this in this letter. So I will unpack a little bit of that chapter through what I want to share. So, setting a table is actually what we're doing here, okay? Not physically, well, we are physically setting a table, but we're inviting you to say, come on in, girls, let's sit down round the table together, and let's see what we can learn from each other. There's many different ways to set a table. And if it's just Ian and myself at home, and we're really hungry and we're in from work, we will sometimes just grab some food, sit down, we sometimes just put the pots on the table, put our food onto a plate, the TV goes on to catch the news at the same time, and there's no conversation, and that's sometimes how we do supper, which is very appealing, isn't it? When we have Christmas, there's the nicest stuff comes out. The china comes out. There's a cutlery set I use at Christmas. There's dishes that come out at Christmas. When I set the table for Christmas, I'll set it the day before, and I take pictures and I put it on Instagram. Never looks like that 5 minutes into the Christmas meal, But when you set a table for an occasion, you take a lot of time over it. And sometimes, if my family are coming round, when I set the table, the plastic cover goes on. And the plastic cover goes on, and I find out as many plastic plates as I can find, and cups as I can find. Because when you've got all these little grandchildren running around, there's lots of dishes get broken. And actually the dishes get broken by the adults as much as anything else, So there's nothing special when they come round. It's just get the old dishes out. And if you have to use a china, just use an old china chip plate, because if it gets broken, it's just not a big deal, okay? So there's different ways of setting the table. Sometimes, I think way back, I might have set a table for an intimate meal of myself and my husband, maybe lit a candle, cooked a beautiful meal, sat down before we had children. I really can't remember that, but I believe sometime many, many, many years ago, we might have had a few of those. Now we just go out for that. But you know, there's lots of different ways. And so spiritually, I was wanting to say we are setting a table in this room. And what we want to cater for is we want to cater for all the different things that I've just mentioned. We want to cater for the children. We want to cater for the young mums. We want to cater for the ones of us who are maybe a little bit older and we just want to just sit down with a cup of tea and a buttery. We want to lay the table out and just say, this is going to be a safe space. This is a place where you can come, where you can sit down, where you can get to know people in a smaller setting. Because now that we're moved to a larger place, it is sometimes difficult to find that small group on a Sunday. And you can scan the crowd and the lights can be down and you're like, I just want to see a familiar face. I feel awkward here. And if someone comes up and says I'm new and I have to say, I've been here for many weeks and I just feel embarrassed, does nobody notice me? And what we want to say is we're setting this up as a connect group. We have different connect groups, but this can be like your connect group. You can come, this can be your connect group that you can come and attend. And one thing very special about having it on a Thursday or any morning is, when we have connect groups and we gather in people's houses, it's sometimes so difficult to have, I'm usually quite good at talking with noise, so don't worry about it, okay? It's sometimes really good when you have lots of people gathered to turn around and just have that little bit of space. And I've totally lost my train of thought just now, what I was going to be saying. But yeah, when we gather, it's really important that we gather and we have some space. Because on a Sunday, I don't know about you, but it's like, hi, how are you? Did you have a good week? Great, bye. And you move on. There isn't that space to I've had a really rubbish week. Or did you hear I got a really amazing thing happen to me? Or I've got a horrible letter in from the doctor. Or there's different things. And I started thinking about the different occasions that we have done. In Sisterhood gone by, we have celebrated and danced. I remember one sisterhood when David phoned and said, Cootsie has given birth to a baby girl, and the whole place erupted and with happy tears, and we were so delighted because she'd had a stillborn baby just the year before. There was another time where we were through a big party for a girl called Rabbi who found herself pregnant here with twins, and she was a single mom. Her family had rejected her. Her partner had rejected her. She was a student. She had nothing, and for a whole year the girls had gathered and supported her in the most incredible way. And we threw a surprise birthday party for her little boys, and we all brought little gifts. We've also had times where we've gathered around a beautiful girl called Virginia when she had discovered she had cancer, and she came and she said, could you just pray? And we all gathered, and there was something so special that day. We cried together as if we were going through the treatment ourselves. There's been other times where we have gathered and it's those kind of stories where we sat and listened. I remember when Jenny shared her story just before we closed, and there was just this silence fell in the room, and afterwards very few people could speak, and there was those messy tears where there's snot coming down, and you just thought, God, what have I ever had to complain about in my life when I hear someone's story and someone's journey like Jenny's, and I realize I have been blessed beyond words. And so sometimes it's in a room like this that we come and we feel challenged, we feel blessed, we can come alongside someone, we go away feeling so much better because we realize who we are in Christ and how blessed we are. We need to learn to count our blessings. I know the news, many of you, I don't know, not all of you in here maybe know my story, but I actually grew up in Afghanistan, and I find it really challenging to talk about this country at this time because it's my childhood home. I was there until I was 17, so it breaks my heart to think that the girls, the sisters there that are living in such fear and such persecution. So we are a people most blessed. So who is invited to this table? Who is invited to this table? Well, it says in Romans 14, verse 1, offer an open hand of fellowship to welcome everyone, even though their faith may be weak and immature. Bring everyone in and refuse to engage in debates with them concerning nothing more than opinions. This is a room where primarily it's for the girls of Kings. It's for the church that we attend. But I do know that people from other churches may not have something like this, and they may want to come in, which is absolutely fine. The focus is Jesus. The focus is not going to be a denomination. It's not going to be what we believe. It's not going to be how superior we think we are, or we've got the biggest church in town. No, it's coming together. It's opening up the Word. It's finding what Jesus has to say to each of us. It's making us a little bit richer, a little bit braver to go into our worlds, wherever they are in the city, and to say, I want to shine the light for Jesus in any way I can. So like it says in Romans 14, verse 1, everybody is welcome. And it's for the young, the old, the diverse table, the single, the widowed, the divorced, the married, the baby Christians, the people who are on a journey, the grannies, the great grannies, whatever. Okay, this is for us. And this is a space where we can come and we can shoulder each other. We can come alongside each other and say, we are in this together. What type of food do you serve at your table at home? In the early church, Paul was writing, and if you read Romans 14, they were all speaking about food offered to idols and all this kind of stuff. And he was saying, look, and he was trying to sort out all the problems. And, when you're cooking food for someone, you take a lot of care about it. When it's for yourself, you might just open a tin of soup or something. There's lots of different things. The most important thing is it's not about the food. It's not about the china cups. That's why we've got paper cups here. It's not about the fancy cups. It's not about home baking. It's about having fellowship. It's about bringing what you have, coming and just feeling comfortable. And that's what it's about. So that's the type of food we want to serve physically. But spiritually, we always pray that on this platform, will be guarded well, and the Word of God will always go forth in whatever platform we speak out of in this church. That it is all about Jesus, that it's about where He's leading us and what we're doing. We've had different things. We looked at the Beatitudes for a few weeks. We looked at the 10 Commandments. We've looked at, or did we? I'm not sure. We looked at the fruits of the Spirit. We did a study on James, and we just thought, as we're coming back, the one we started 5 years ago, actually, when we started, was actually the Women of the Bible. So that's why our banner says, He makes me brave, because through looking at these ordinary women in the Bible, we're going to find out that what God can do with an ordinary life, He can make us so brave. He can give us such courage. And these people in the Bible were not special. They did not go around with halos in their head. In fact, they will be most shocked that thousands of years later we're even talking to them, that we even remember their name. But because they were included in God's Word, then they're there for a reason. And they're there to teach us, lead us, guide us, encourage us, warn us. And that's what we're going to be doing. So that's what we're going to be looking at in the next few weeks in that. I remember many years ago inviting people to my house for dinner. I didn't even think that they wouldn't eat meat, okay? And I had this I did Chinese food. I was into Chinese food at the moment. I made lemon chicken and something else. And I did 2 or 3 different dishes, and I took so long preparing it. And they came, I think I even bought Chinese bowls to serve the dishes in. I thought it would be really authentic, it would be great. And then they came and told me they were vegetarian. I was like, so what's vegetarian? I hadn't even heard of it. And nowadays, there's gluten-free, dairy-free, vegans, vegetarians. There's every kind of different type of stuff nowadays, and you're scared to actually, in fact, before you cook a meal, you're like, right, can I just double check with you? You kind of go through this list of what you can and can't have, the do's and don'ts of entertaining nowadays. And quite often it's like, let's just go out. No, I'm just kidding. And so what I was going to say is, the type of food we're going to serve here, it's varied as well. There might be something that you might think, oh, that's a bit beyond my head. I don't fully understand that. And that's why we want to give space afterwards for discussion, to ask questions. There might be something really simple. There'll be stories that I don't want this to be a complicated thing. In this church, you will get varying different types of food. There'll be food to get your teeth into. There'll be food that's very simple to understand. There'll be other things that, you might be an encounter, and the worship song there just ministers to you enough. So there's different types of food. Just that we have different type of appetites, different types of tolerances. In this church, there will be many different types of food and spiritual food that we will give you. So we really hope that in this room, it'll be something for everyone and that you'll enjoy it. Then when you go on in verse 7 to 9, it says, in the Passion Translation, it says, who are we living for and who are we influencing? For none of us lives our lives alone for ourselves. No one lives to himself and no one dies to himself. While we live, we must live for Jesus, and in death, we must bring him honor. So everything we do is for him, and everything we want to do is bringing our small talents, our little gifts, and saying, Lord, I don't know if it's much, I don't know if I have much to say here, but will you use me? And I can remember, when I look at some of the past productions we've done, or the past things we've done, and maybe sometimes you go on and you see, only 56 people viewed that, and you think, wow, I spent hours and hours doing that. And yet I can look at Jenny's story. The last time I looked, I think 1,400 people viewed her story. You see, it's a simple story. She said, I don't know what I have. But that is more important than spending hours with a Bible concordance. So I must remind myself, keep it simple, okay? And one thing, in Romans 14, just before I close, 2 things, how not to do sisterhood. It actually doesn't say those words. But there's 3 warnings there. Judging each other. Verse 10, why would you judge your brothers and sisters? Let's make this a room where there is no judging. That you can share things. That you can say, you know what, I'm really struggling. I haven't picked up my Bible for a couple of weeks. I'm really finding this difficult, or I'm really struggling with this temptation. This is a place where you will not be judged. There is no condemnation. Then in verse 13 it says, so stop being critical and condemning each other, but instead determine to never deliberately cause a sister to stumble and fall because of your actions. So the whole thing about being critical and condemning, let's keep our spirits sweet, okay? Let's keep our spirits sweet and gentle. And the third thing he mentions in verse 15 is about offense. And I know we always say, offense isn't given, offense is taken. And yes, that's true. But if you say something really offensive, you've said something offensive, So I know when I've said something offensive, and then my little quip is, oh, goodness, why were they offended? Surely offense is just taken. And I have to check my heart and say, Lord, keep my spirit sweet. Help me to be gentle with people. Help me to be gentle with the ones who are on a journey of discovery. Help me to come along the girls that are struggling with different things. And if we can keep judging, offense, and criticism and critical thinking out of this room, we're going to do well. And the last thing I wanted to say is how to do sisterhood. And it says in verse 19, so then, in this way, make it your top priority to live a life of peace and harmony in your relationships, strengthening and encouraging each other. And I liked what it also said. I went on to Romans 15, and I liked what it said here. It just read it really beautifully. If I can find it here. Yes. And so those of you who want a personal walk with Jesus, develop maturity and get along with each other as well as Jesus gets along with us. Then we'll be a choir, not our voices only, but our very lives singing in harmony in a stunning anthem to the Lord our God. And I just think, when you think about a choir, if you have somebody that's off, they're off. When you start tuning up all those instruments, they take their sound from one. They don't tune their instruments in isolation, turn up and say, yep, we're all tuned up, let's go. One person does the sound, and they all tune themselves to that sound. So they're singing with one voice. So they're singing in harmony, and it's a really beautiful sound. Let's make this room a beautiful sound, that it's a place that we can minister. I believe God is going to do something amazing in this new season. Even over lockdown, I've seen many new girls coming to church that are struggling with different issues, that are finding themselves lonely. They've maybe found themselves suddenly, on their own again, and they didn't expect it. They find themselves, struggling with their husband, they find themselves struggling at work. Maybe they've got an elderly mum they're looking after, that, and all the burdens of caring for that. And all I would say is, let's just tune each other to each other. You know, when someone comes in and says, yeah, I'm really struggling, we come alongside them and say, hey, let me come alongside you and let's work together. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to be meeting every Thursday, and it's going to be, we'll start at 9:30 for teas and coffees. We'll go live at 10 o'clock, or start recording at 10 o'clock. It'll finish at 10:30. Those of you who need to leave at 10:30 because you have other commitments, absolutely you can go. But those of you, if you want to stay and chat and have prayer, or want to talk around our tables about different things, we will do that fellowship time there as well. Okay? We always run according to school times, because if we didn't, we would end up having a room full of about 100 children. So we just work according to school schedules, okay? And at the end of September, we will give you plenty of warning. We will try to have, I can't remember when the date is, we will try to have a sisterhood evening, have it in the evening, and get all the girls from church who are working, who can't be with us on Thursday morning. And we'll have someone sharing a really special life story then. We're hoping to do a craft fair again in November, so we'll get a craft fair going. And again, we have loads of space for that, so it's going to be quite incredible. And this is going to be a time, sometimes you'll come here and it'll be a coffee morning. Sometimes you'll come here, it'll be a Bible study. Sometimes you'll come here and it'll be like, you know, girls, the kids' church need us to wrap 200 selection boxes for Christmas. And we will just put our pennies on and go for it, okay? We will do what needs to be done. We're here to serve the church and grow, okay? So that is the vision. That is the table we want to set, and we just say you are welcome in this place. Some people were asking, in fact, I won't say that just now. So have a great time. We love you online, and we miss you, and if you are free, by all means come. And those of you who are working, well done for working, and be blessed in the work you're doing, and it's wonderful that you're able to catch up with us. God bless you and have a wonderful time. Amen.